Greetings, Collective Coven, and welcome to another book-umentary in the Archaeo-Astrology series. My name is Trey, aka at Astrology for Divination, FKA Taboo Tarot Reader. In this book-umentary, we will be centering the mystery of the Tzolkin. Many Mesoamerican civilizations shared the 260-day Tzolkin calendar. So, what is the deeper root source of this sacred cosmology? That is the question we will be exploring in this book-umentary, as well as exploring the fundamentals of Mesoamerican astrology. Mesoamerican calendar astrology features 20 day signs, 13 numbers, also known as Trecenas, and 9 lords of the night, or the underworld. The more well-known long count calendar of 2012 cultural appropriation fame is different from the sacred 260-day Tzolkin. A little bit of anecdotal information about myself. I have studied Mesoamerican calendar cosmology now for about 7 years. I offer personal readings as well. I first visited the Yucatan Peninsula and the sacred sites of the ancient Maya when I was a teenager, many moons ago. And at that time, I was not conscious of cosmology, astrology, numerology, but a seed was planted in my little noggin. Furthermore, as an adult, I lived in Mexico for 2.5 years. That was when I began deeper study of Mesoamerican calendar cosmology. And in this book-umentary, we'll be synthesizing various different sources, such as Kenneth Johnson's work, Bridget Racine's work, Bruce Schofield and Barry C. Orr's work, which I feel are really important works about Mesoamerican calendar cosmology that deep dive into the authentic mathematics and numerology inherent in the calendar, which is so lacking, frankly, from a lot of the 2012 doomsday granola grifters who profited off of 2012. So if this is something that interests you, Collective Coven, let's dive deep into the mystery.
Quote, not trying to burst anybody's bubble, but the Gregorian calendar is not based on any divinatory or natural cycles. It's primarily an administrative and fiscal-based calendar. Every moment or day is a good time to start something new, but if you want to align your life force with a meaningful significance, I would propose doing that on days and times when there is a significant event in natural, earthly, celestial rhythms. Aztec and Mayan calendars are perfect for this. End quote, via Guido Corleone.
The 260-day Tzolkin calendar corresponds roughly with 9 moon cycles, the human gestation period. So this implies that empowered women created the sacred Tzolkin calendar.
The fact that the 260-day Tzolkin corresponds with roughly 9 lunar cycles and the human gestation period suggests it's a wisdom system developed by a matriarchal culture from deep antiquity, not a more recent patriarchal culture. Quote, according to a myth in the book of Chilam Balam of Chumayel, 4 women began the first counting of the days by measuring the footsteps, oak, of a primal traveler upon the road of life, Eve. This traveler, it turns out, is none other than time himself, for the ancient Maya conceived of the spirit of time as a man walking down an eternal road. The women fall in step with time and begin walking down the road of life. Together, in the spirit of communion with distinctly sexual overtones, they all generate the 20 day signs together. End quote by Kenneth Johnson.
Why is this significant? This is significant because it implies that sacred cosmology, astrology, and numerology was women's wisdom that was accumulated via observation of the cycles of menstruation, procreation, and likely synchronization between women's cycles living in community together. These rhythms naturally align with celestial rhythms, in particular the lunar rhythm. This logical deduction and likelihood is deeply triggering to any patriarchal mind because it implies to us that anyone who delegitimizes, devalues, and discards astrology has internalized misogynoir, aka the intersection of misogyny with anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism, for it was highly likely that Black and Indigenous women of color created astrology, created cosmology, and created numerology. Biology mirrors cosmology. As above, so below, as within, so without. And this is why the sacred Tzolkin calendar is a highly accurate tool for personal and spiritual development, because it is in alignment with what is real. The Gregorian calendar is not reflective of anything real. With that being established, let's now dive deep into Mayan calendar astrology by Kenneth Johnson. A very, very, very good read, a must read for anyone interested in decolonized astrology.
Quote, las fuerzas del cosmos no lo vemos, no lo tocamos, pero sí está vivo en nosotros. Las leyes del calendario son fuerzas superiores a las leyes humanas. We can neither see nor touch the forces of the cosmos, but it lives within us. The laws of the calendar are forces superior to the laws of humankind. End quote, via Don Rigoberto Itzep Chanchavac in Mayan Calendar Astrology by Kenneth Johnson. Quote, acknowledgements. Unlike some other books on Mayan astrology, none of the information contained in this volume is my own personal invention. All of the material contained herein is based on my studies with Mayan day keepers and shamanic priests in Guatemala, all of whom are well known in the contemporary tradition of the Mayan calendar. Almost everything I have written here is similar to what you would learn if you had chart readings done by village priests in the highlands of Guatemala. I would like to thank my teachers. First and foremost, I thank Rigoberto Itzep Chanchavac of Momos Tenango, who clarified for me the distinctions of meaning between day sign, number, conception sign, and so on. He also made available to me detailed teachings on the meaning of the numbers and the phases of the sun and moon, none of which have been published before. Since Momos Tenango is one of the few communities which still keeps both the sacred calendar, Tzolkin, and the solar calendar, Hab, he is the source for all my information regarding the influence of the solar year lord as well. His son, Gregorio Culculcan Itzep Hernandez, also an Cholqij, or daykeeper, is the creator of the intricate day sign illustrations used in the chapter headings. I would also like to thank Roberto Pos of Sunil for introducing me to the esoteric technique known as the Path of Feathered Serpent. A summary of some of his teachings can be found in a book authored by his sister-in-law, Jean Moleski Pos, and entitled Contemporary Maya Spirituality, The Ancient Ways Are Not Lost. Thomas Hart's book listed below also contains a substantial passage from the work of Don Roberto. On the Nature of Sacred Time, excerpt from Jaguar Wisdom and Introduction to the Mayan Calendar. The sacred calendar is about time. We all know what time is, or think we do. It is a succession of dawns and sunsets, days and nights and seasons. We may divide it into hours and minutes, or years and centuries, but we can never step outside of it, except perhaps in moments of special awareness which constitute the peak experiences of life. Time is one of the essential words. Life itself is subject to the regimen of time, not just human and animal life, but the life of planets and galaxies as well. Time is an inescapable fact of existence. Our personal quantum of biological energy will wind down in time, and time will overcome us in the end. We as a species have always been inclined to regard time as a kind of taskmaster, a relentless clock that holds us always in its grasp, ticking away the minutes toward our eventual extinction. Time is the linear reality that gives shape and pattern to our lives, defining our mortality. According to many traditional societies, there are two dimensions of time, ordinary time and sacred time. What has just been described is ordinary time. If ordinary time represents a process to which all of us are subject, and before which all of us are ultimately powerless, then sacred time represents cosmic order. It is the foundation of rhythms and motion. It is the glue that binds the universe together. Without the sense of cosmic order implied by this sacred dimension of time, nothing could happen. There would be no loom upon which to weave the tapestry of life. In many ancient mythologies, the gods do their work of universal creation in a world where time does not yet exist. Time itself is the summit of creation, for it is only when time exists that the new made world is ready for humankind. The creation of time replaces original chaos with cosmic order. Sacred time exists contemporaneously with ordinary time. It is fashioned of the same elements, seasonal and celestial, that comprise ordinary time. It is simply our altered or ritualized perception of time that allows us to enter its sacred dimension. When the shaman draws his magic circle, or when a priest approaches the altar to celebrate the Mass, he enters ritual space. This is a sacred place where the ordinary laws of reality do not apply. This is where magic happens. The center of the shaman circle, the altar with its bread and wine, here lies the center of the universe. We enter ritual space in our daily lives whenever we pray or meditate, whenever we create, in short, whenever we pay homage to the presence of the divine in our lives. For that moment, we are at the center of the universe. Whenever we enter ritual space, we enter ritual time as well. Ordinary time may be going on all around us, but we are no longer a part of it. Our perception of time has changed. It is no longer a mere progression of hours and minutes, but a living, vital, spiritual presence. This is what the sacred dimension of time is all about. Both ordinary and sacred time are generally measured by the patterns of heaven and earth, for it is these patterns, these constantly recurring cycles, that integrate us with the cosmic order underlying all things. Honoring these recurring changes is yet another way for us to enter the sacred dimension of time. Thus, humanity has devised rituals to mark the four major changes of the solar and seasonal year: the equinoxes, when day and night are of equal length, and the solstices, when the sun appears to stand still and then turn back to the north or south. Priests and magicians of all cultures have charted the progress of planets and fixed the positions of the stars, for the orderly cycles of the heavens are among the most potent symbols of the cosmic order. The Mesoamerican spiritual tradition exemplified its vision of the universe in cosmograms, diagrams of the infinite. The double pyramid construction of the Mayan universe was one such diagram. The geomantic city was another. But these cosmograms are essentially static. They are not in motion. The Maya believed that the universe, both human and cosmic, was constantly evolving through different worlds or suns, different epochs of cosmic time. They believed that every moment in time was in a state of flux, a shifting tapestry of energies that manifests in earthquakes and volcanoes, in the wars of gods and men, and the transformations of the human heart and spirit. Hence, the theme of metamorphosis is central to all Mesoamerican mythology. In one story, a deformed and rejected god is transformed into the glorious sun of the New World epoch. In another, the god king Quetzalcoatl is transformed into the planet Venus. The world is constantly evolving. Human beings must constantly struggle for the sense of universal order and harmony, even as they strive toward their own evolution. To pluck order out of chaos, we must understand the ebb and flow of energy and time, the vast transformations and metamorphoses that make up life on Earth. Yet how shall we find the sense of cosmic order in this shifting, restless world of volcanic passions, both human and terrestrial? How shall we sense both the order and the chaos entwined in one vast scheme? For this, the people of ancient Mesoamerica needed a cosmogram that was fluid rather than static, a cosmogram that moved in time, capable of embodying the flux and reflux of life. This was the sacred calendar. End quote by Kenneth Johnson.
If you are still with me after that brief preface, thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias. Let's now explore further some of the fundamental building blocks of Mesoamerican calendar, cosmology, and astrology. First things first, The 20-day signs each have a corresponding nawal, or spiritual essence, and corresponding animal totem. Now, some animal totem correspondences vary according to which Mesoamerican lineage system you're working with, such as Mayan versus Aztec versus Zapotec. The animal totems, therefore, are subjective, just like any planetary correspondences. And the 13 numbers, or Trecenas, also correspond to different day signs. Now, for the purposes of this book-umentary, we won't be going into the deeper layers of meaning to each of the 20-day signs and 13 numbers, but we'll be focusing again on the fundamentals. So the 20-day signs have a nawal, or spiritual essence, that is timeless. Therefore, like the yin and yang principle of Chinese cosmology, there's a similar structure here with the 20-day signs and 13 Trecenas. However, the implied meaning of yin and yang has been reversed. So the masculine solar day signs are considered yin in that their spiritual essence, repeat, is timeless. It does not change. Those archetypes remain the same across space and time. And the lunar feminine Trecenas, or numbers, are considered yang. That is, they are fluid and active and modify the 20-day signs. It is from the combination of various day signs and numbers that we can arrive at unique personality imprints in a Mesoamerican horoscope. Let's now look at one example. The day sign Lamont corresponds with the nawal of corn, ripening, and the seed, and also corresponds with the animal totem of the rabbit, which is the companion of the moon goddess Ixchel. Its planetary correspondence is Venus, and we know that its correspondence is Venus because in the classic Mayan codices, this glyph for Lamont was used to indicate Venus star point cycles, which were important to the ancient Maya to track agricultural cycles. Repeat, it's important to remember that any planetary correspondences are subjective, and it always depends on the context and your framework of reference. Stay tuned. We'll dive deep into the significance of the planet Venus in Mesoamerican calendar cosmology in a hot minute. Now, in this example of 3 Lamont for Monday, July 14th, 2025, we have the unique combination of the lunar number 3 and the solar day sign Lamont. And then on a deeper level, we have Trecena. So the first day sign in any new 13-day cycle of the 260-day Tzolkin is the sign that rules that Trecena, or 13-day cycle, which adds another layer of implied meaning that is synthesizing with the archetypes of each day sign, each number, and then on an even deeper level, the 9 lords of the night. Now we'll dive deeper into the very intriguing and mysterious 9 lords of the night in a hot minute. It's also important to note that each day sign also has further implied meaning in relation to directionality, i.e., the four directions, elemental correspondences, and colors. These correspondences vary depending on the wisdom lineage system you're working with. For example, in the classical Maya tradition, Lamat is associated with the cardinal direction south and the color yellow. In the tradition of modern-day Quiche Maya in Guatemala, it is west and the color black. To summarize the fundamentals of Mesoamerican calendar astrology, there are 20 named days, 13 numbered months, aka Trecenas, which correspond with 13 lunar numbers, in the 260-day Tzolkin sacred calendar, which represents sacred time, whilst the 365-day Hab solar calendar represents mundane or ordinary time. These various cycles all intermesh like moving cogs or gears in a watch. The very well-known metaphor which can help us to conceptualize the ways that the ancient Mesoamericans perceived time. Let's now dive deeper into the mysterious Lords of the Night, which when combined with your lunar number can correspond as a moon sign. We will be reading an excerpt from my book, Astrology for Divination Guidebook. For anyone who is curious to know, this is a synthesis of Western Hellenistic, Vedic, Mesoamerican, and Chinese astrology. It's a cornucopia of brain candy for anyone out there who is a curious student of ancient astrology. A 444-page download that is available on my website for a very reasonable $5 investment. This guidebook offers interpretation insights for all your major planetary placements. In addition to the addendum features the full Taboo Tarot e-deck.
Quote, Chapter 3, Interpretation Insights for Decoding Your Moon Sign. Dearly beloved, 3 powerhouse civilizations, ancient India, China, and Mexico, all featured lunar calendars within their astrological and cosmological systems. Therefore, what is the hidden significance of your moon sign? There is an inherent mystery in the moon, for we can only perceive one side of it from Earth's vantage point. Hashtag the hidden. The moon is a fast-moving celestial body orbiting around our planet, covering the entire 360 degrees of the zodiac in roughly 28 days. The lunar rhythm is approximately 13 times faster than that of the sun, i.e., the moon covers the same distance in one day through the zodiac, which the sun requires 13 days to complete. Interestingly enough, the ancient Mayans noticed that the moon also cycles with the sun 13 times in 1 year. Hashtag stay tuned. Thus, the moon represents an even faster energy than Mercury. All of us, regardless of physical sex, are affected by the lunar rhythm in a very immediate, yet invisible, way. The elevated ancient ancestors were very concerned with the lunar rhythms. Dr. Carmen Bolter, PhD, a researcher and linguist of ancient matriarchal cultures, shows that pre-diluvian societies were most concerned with the 2 principles of biology and cosmology within their sacred sciences. Ergo, the lunar rhythm, which synchronizes many human biological cycles, was very important to keep track of. This is why Vedic astrology features the lunar nakshatra zodiac, Mayan astrology features the 13-day lunar Trecena cycle, and Chinese astrology features the lunar zodiac, Shengxiao. Why did the elevated ancient ancestors give the moon such clear importance in their astrological wisdom systems? Now switching lanes to another past powerhouse, the ancient Maya, whom certainly also incorporated the lunar rhythm into their highly accurate calendars. Contained within the 260-day astrological calendar used by the Maya are 20 blocks of 13 days called Trecenas. They indicate general qualities of the personality similar to those described by the moon in Western astrology. These qualities are receptivity, reaction, instinctive response, and emotional connections with family, community, and society at large. The moon played an important role in mythology and folklore in ancient Mexico. In the West, the moon has long been associated with the feminine aspects of life, and this relationship was also true for the Maya. For example, the Mayan moon was linked with the goddess Ixchel, Lady Rainbow, who is the wife of Itzam, the supreme god. She was a goddess of the woman's world of weaving, childbirth, and healing. The moon also played an important role in ancient Mayan astrology. Mayan astrologers no doubt notice how quickly the moon moves through the stars across the night sky. In one day, the moon's position relative to the background stars moves as far as the sun's in 13 days. It takes the moon about 27 to 28 days to pass through the 360 degrees of the zodiac. At that rate, it covers about 13 degrees of the zodiac in one day. The sun moves at the rate of about 1 degree of the zodiac per day, so it takes about 13 days to cover the same distance as the moon does in a single day. The moon also cycles with the sun 13 times in 1 year, from new moon to new moon in about 29 days, and roughly 13 of these cycles match the yearly cycle of the sun through the zodiac. These are two major reasons why the number 13 comes to be the most powerful number in ancient Mexican astrology. The Mayan Tzolkin had 20 weeks of 13 days, a total of 260 days. The 20 13-day weeks, known in Spanish as the Trecenas, meaning 13ths, appear to be lunar in nature. They represent the time taken for the sun to match the moon's daily travel. Ancient codices and inscriptions indicated that each of the 20 13-day periods had a specific meaning that was generated by the named solar day, the day sign, that began the period. These first days are numbered 1, followed by the name of the day. Like the day signs, each of these periods were ruled by a specific deity. The Trecenas appear to correlate with the public trends of the world. News events, both local and global, tend to reflect the nature of whatever 13-day period is currently active. For example, when the period called 1 Ben occurs, people with strong and rigid opinions make news. During 1 Chib, a sign of politics, we often hear stories of complex political maneuvering in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. Close observers will notice that persons described by a specific 13-day period will often make news during its 13-day span of influence. Also, certain kinds of activities tend to proliferate, or at least become public knowledge, in some Trecena periods, but not in others. Ancient Mesoamerican astrologers used this astrological calendar when choosing the best time to do things, a process called electional astrology in the West. The Trecena not only offers a description of current trends, but also serves as an index of personality. A birth occurring during a 13-day period is strongly influenced by that Trecena. In fact, this effect was one of the main interpretations of the Trecenas in ancient Mexico. These 13-day periods were indicators of character and destiny that also said something about a person's connection to family, community, or even nation. A birth will always occur within one of these 13-day Trecenas. This placement means that each birth is designated not only by a day sign, but also by its position with a 13-day period. These cycles of 13 Trecenas in 20 days can be seen as gears that mesh to produce the 260-day year. Via How to Practice Mayan Astrology, 2007, page 38 through 41, by Bruce Schofield and Barry C. Orr. How is this lunar information applicable for the average person in a society geared towards the solar rhythm? Despite the compelling correlations between the Vedic and Mayan astrological wisdom systems' interpretations of the moon, many students of Western astrology may be resistant to this information. Remember that the moon governs intuition. Perhaps a walkaway message regarding the Mayan Trecenas and their important implications could be intuitive impulses, first impressions, and spiritual insights, as governed by the moon, are felt instantly and then processed subconsciously for roughly 2 weeks before they can potentially become conscious. This gives a whole new meaning to the term download. As they may say, trust your first impressions. Just give it 2 weeks to sink in. In Mayan astrology, there are also 9 mysterious lords of the night/death mentioned in the sacred text of the Popol Vuh. We know little about them beyond vague associations with 9 night cycles. However, we now know it is highly likely that the Aztec civilization's 9 gods of the night correspond with the 9 Mayan lords. Both of these civilizations seemingly inherited an ancient Mesoamerican astrology and astronomy wisdom system from the Olmecs. The mysterious 9 lords of the night obviously connect with lunar energy and the moon major arcana. A constantly repeating cycle of 9 deities was recorded on many Mayan inscriptions and in nearly all the astrological codices. They are commonly called the Lords of the Night, or in Mayan, Bolontiku, which translates as 9 of them. These ruling divinities were gods of the underworld, gods that humanity had to contend with in order to find everlasting life. Some researchers believe, however, that the 9-day sequence refers only to nighttime, when the gods of the underworld were dominant. On inscriptions, these deities are often listed next to the Tzolkin dates, and they are also found on inscriptions that list the phases of the moon. It has been suggested that the lords of the night were connected with the lunar month, which is close to 3 cycles of 9. Compared to the 20-day signs, or the Trecenas, not much is known about the lords of the night. It is not even known whether these 9 deities ruled only partial hours of the days or nights, or perhaps full days or nights. The Mayan scholar, Edward Saylor, thought that they ruled a series of nocturnal hours, in which the length of the night was divided into ninths, and which each of those segments was ruled by one of the special deities. Other researchers have postulated that the deities designated a sequence of 9 days and nights in the same way that the 7 planets give their names to the Western week, which is the approach taken here. The authors suspect that, like the Tzolkin, the 9 lords of the night were a basic component of Mesoamerican astrology, and that the known Aztec deities are a key to understanding the role of the Mayan lords. The Aztec lords appear to be in a sequence that is parallel to that of the Maya, even though we don't know all the Mayan names. Mayan Lord of the Night 4 is thought to have been an agricultural deity, and interestingly, the Aztec lists Centeotl, the corn goddess, is at the 4th position. Scholars do know that the Maya had these lords tagged to the long count, and that on August 11th, 3114 BC, the first day of the long count, the 9th lord was ruler. By starting from that date, the 9-day cycle can simply be run parallel to the day signs to determine the Lord of the Night for any given day in the Western calendar. The Lords of the Night are equivalent to the Lords of Death of the Popol Vuh, one of the most important Mayan texts to have survived the destruction perpetuated by Christian friars. This account of Mayan creation mythology was found in Guatemala long after the Spanish conquest, and it has been an exceptional window into the thoughts and beliefs of the pre-conquest Maya. It is a tale of hero twins who some believe represent the sun and moon, others the sun and Venus. These twins were ball players, athletes of a game that was played by every major Mesoamerican culture. In the game, a large rubber ball was passed between players, who used their hips to direct the ball. Ball game stadiums are found throughout the land of the Maya, and one at Chichen Itza is as big as a football field. The Popol Vuh tells the story of how the twins avenged their father's death, which took place at the hands of the underworld-dwelling Lords of Death. As the story goes, the twins ventured underground and after enduring a number of ordeals, beat the Lords of Death at their own sacred ball game. In the process, the twins become immortal. The Lords of the Night rule the underworld, which might itself be equated with the world of the unconscious. These gods are the ones who must be defeated in order for humanity to rise above the primitive animal/human condition and attain immortality. It might be said that the message of the Popol Vuh is that mastery of the primordial impulses of the reptilian brain are the key to transformation, immortality, and peace in the world as we know it. Via How to Practice Mayan Astrology, 2007, page 49 through 50, by Bruce Schofield and Barry C. Orr. The story of the Popol Vuh and the 9 Lords of the Night is relevant for any student of astrology attempting to decode their moon sign placement. Why? Remember that the moon major arcana in the tarot is related to addictions, vices, private nighttime behaviors hidden from the social context of daytime, and secrets. Thus, your moon sign placement can often reflect your relationships with these types of unconscious behaviors. The addict archetype certainly exists in all of our psyches as modern humans, whether you are aware of it or not. The number 9, a very important number in processional astrology, also resonates with the 9 spheres of the Tree of Life, aka Yggdrasil, and the 9 muses and other occult traditions describing the hidden realms. It is also very interesting to note that the ancient Mayan astronomers and daykeepers were very much concerned with planetary relationships and conjunctions as well when calculating their calendars. Astronomical metaphors and celestial events defined the ritual landscape for Maya rulers. Transfers of royal power, for example, seem to have been timed by the summer solstice at certain centers. At Palenque, an inscription notes that Pacal's son, Chambalum, dedicated the cross temple, grouping on July 23rd, 690, timed to coincide with the conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and the Moon. To the Maya, this event may have represented the primordial birth of the 3 ancestor gods of the Palenque dynasty with the first mother, the Moon, and would have been an appropriate moment to consecrate an accession monument by a Canadian Museum of History. It is very significant to note as well that the ancient Mayan astronomers and daykeepers incorporated Venus's star point cycle, as symbolized by the pentagram 5-pointed star, into their long count calendar system. The Maya were aware of the planets in the solar system, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter, and tracked their movements. The most important planet by far to the Maya was Venus, which they associated with war. Battles and wars would be arranged to coincide with the movements of Venus, and captured warriors and leaders would likewise be sacrificed according to the position of Venus in the night sky. The Maya painstakingly recorded the movements of Venus and determined that its year, relative to Earth, not the Sun, was 584 days long, closely approximating the 583.92 days that modern science has determined. What else do the ancient Mayans have to say about Venus, arguably the most important planet in their calendar systems after the Sun, and its star point cycle? If you watch the accompanying occult astrology blog for Venus on my website, we dive deep into the mystery of Venus, because the Mayans perceived of Venus as a masculine malefic, a complete flipping of the script of Western astrology's perception of Venus as a feminine archetype. I feel it is important to clarify some further points about this seeming conflict. Skeptics of astrology often compare the Mesoamerican astrological Venus with the Western astrological Mars, implying that astrology is completely internal to the culture that creates it. That assumption may be true on the surface, but as we'll see, there is no disagreement over the fundamental astrological properties of Venus in both Mesoamerican and Western astrology. The ancient Mesoamerican scripting correlates well with the great Western astrologer Dane Rudhyar's observations on the distinctions between Venus as a morning or evening star in natal charts. Rudhyar said that, as a morning star, Venus signified the projection of individual vision and purpose upon life. Venus, in its evening star phase, according to Rudhyar, signifies the projection of a more collective vision and purpose. Combining these ideas, the authors maintain that Venus, as a morning star, may indicate a tendency to follow one's own instinctive urges, which can then lead to tensions with the dominant social paradigm within which the individual operates and functions. Social sins are committed during this phase. Venus, as an evening star, may indicate a tendency to follow the guidelines of human social conduct that are embraced by society. Here, a humbled Venus follows the laws, just as Quetzalcoatl did after recognizing the error of his ways. The inferior and superior conjunctions are quite distinct from each other in their effects on human behavior. The inferior conjunction marks the time when Quetzalcoatl was born on Earth, and was noted in the Mayan codices as having a striking effect. The people noted that Venus's appearance in this phase coincided with downfalls of leaders and other social upsets. In the Dresden Codex, Venus is portrayed as the Toltec male deity Talhuitzcalpantecutli, who strikes and spears his victims. Via How to Practice Mayan Astrology, 2007, page 66 through 67 by Bruce Schofield and Barry C. Orr. End quote, via Astrology for Divination Guidebook. Quote, a new reading of the Dresden Codex table demonstrates that the mathematical correction of their Venus calendar, a sophisticated innovation, was likely developed at the city of Chichen Itza during the Terminal Classic period, 800 to 1000 CE. What's more, the calculations may have been done under the patronage of Kak-Upakal Kawil, one of the city's most prominent historical figures. This is the part that I find to be most rewarding, that when we get in here, we're looking at the work of an individual Mayan, and we could call him or her a scientist, an astronomer. This person, who's witnessing events at this one city during this very specific period of time, created through their own creativity this mathematical innovation. They're using Venus not just to strictly chart when it was going to appear, but they were using it for their ritual cycles. They had ritual activities when the whole city would come together and they would do certain events. Based on the observations of Venus, let's assume that they had historical records. They were keeping historical records of astronomical events, and they were consulting them in the future. Exactly what the Greeks did, and the Egyptians, and everybody else. That's what they did. They kept these over a long period of time, and then they found patterns within them. The history of Western astronomy is based entirely on this premise. End quote by Professor Gerardo Aldana, 2016, in the Journal of Astronomy in Culture.
If you are still with me, thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias. Let's now switch lanes to further explore the mystery of the Venus star point cycle significant to the ancient Maya via my free ebook and accompanying book-umentary, Archaeo-Astrology, Decolonize Your Horoscope, available on my website and YouTube channel.
Quote, despite sharing knowledge of vast cosmic cycles, Chinese, Vedic, and Mayan astrology exhibit unique divergence. For example, Mesoamerican astrology perceives Venus as a masculine malefic, whilst Vedic and Hellenistic astrology perceive Venus as a feminine benefic. For the ancient Mesoamericans, Venus corresponded with the god Quetzalcoatl's warrior aspects. Vedic is in fact the most similar system to Western tropical, or Hellenistic astrology, here out of the three ancient systems we are exploring. However, my research reveals that the resonance between the various perceptions of Venus is instinctual sexuality. The classic Maya also ascribed the most importance to Venus after the Sun and Moon, and calculated Venus's exact 584-day synodic cycle. The Maya used the 4 phases of the Venus star-point cycle for forecasting rain and agricultural cycles and statecraft divination. The classic Maya Dresden Codex features the day sign Lammat to signify Venus, and calculations of the 4 Venus phases, arguably more accurate observations than Arabic astrologers of the same era. Observing Venus was important to the Maya's ancestors because the Venus star cycle was used to foresee potential omens of war and to organize agricultural cycles. Statecraft divination, observing the Venus star cycle, was perhaps of the utmost importance to ancient Mesoamerican daykeepers who counseled empires. Ancient cultures, who relied upon divinatory counsel to make strategic decisions of state, speak to an awareness of deeper quantum phenomenon. If humans ignore the cosmic counsel of the fates, then catastrophe surely looms. Did matriarchal civilizations understand that subtle influence is the absolute authority, not direct force or control? Perhaps yes, considering that there's always the elements of unexpected surprise in the future. No one human has the foresight capable to predict future events with 100% accuracy, for the universe ultimately is in a constant state of change or evolution, and the catalysts of change often are short burst surprises of novelty, disrupting our patterns of human habits. Centuries of careful planning can be upended in a moment of inconvenient emotion. Aeons of evolution can be altered in a moment by unexpected cataclysm, creating an impact so devastating that the instantaneous changes it caused would have required millennia of peaceful evolution. Geology teaches us that cosmic catastrophes or cataclysmic Earth events often mark the points of important shifts which forever alter the path of life's evolution. Venus transits, especially the superior and inferior conjunction phases, were likely observed by Maya daykeepers in past cycles to correspond with political violence, omens, and sexual vice, by How to Practice Mayan Astrology by Scofield and Orr. The classic Maya probably also observed how the general populace behaved during Venus transits to monitor potential misdeeds, perhaps implying that Venus triggers instinctual and amoral aspects of the human condition. Some astrologers, like Dane Rudhyar, Bruce Scofield, and Barry C. Orr, have even argued that the 4 phases of Venus could influence the individual personality imprint, i.e., rather than looking to the specific star constellation Venus is transiting through at the time of birth, more implied meaning can be found in which the 4 star point phases Venus is in, i.e. the morning star, evening star, inferior conjunction, and superior conjunction phases. Whilst differences on the surface seem contradictory in nature, they are merely superficial variations of interpretation of a cosmic archetype. All ancient cultures had their own frameworks for discerning correspondence between planetary transits and Earth events. At their core, the Mayan and Vedic perceptions of Venus are not in complete dissonance just because the gender script is flipped. On an even deeper level, the ancient Mesoamericans tracked the 4 phases of the Venus star point cycle because it was meaningful in their cosmology. The Venus star is central to the Maya creation story as being a source of light during the dawning of the 4th world, which guided the 4 jaguar grandfathers and 4 grandmothers out of primordial darkness. 8 is a very important number in Mesoamerican calendar cosmology. If 1 and 7 are the beginning and the end, then 1 plus 7 equals 8, making 8 the number of completion or wholeness, much like the number 4. This is why there is some sort of ritual for almost every 8th day, and why some extremely traditional communities like Momostenango have a special local shrine dedicated to the number 8. Of course, 4 plus 4 equals 8, so the wholeness implied in the number 4 is doubled here, as if the wholeness of the fourfold universe were seen from the viewpoint of both polarities, night and day, light and darkness, sun and moon, yin and yang, via Mayan calendar astrology, Mapping Your Inner Cosmos by Kenneth Johnson. How does the number 8 further correlate with Venus? Venus retrograde, a period about 40 days, occurs approximately every 18 months and repeats in the same zodiac signs every 8 years. Venus also corresponds to a version of the archetype Quetzalcoatl and another Maya story of alchemy. In this context, Quetzalcoatl is a Mayan prince whom was slain by the gods for the sins of drunkenness and incest, before being purified and reborn as the Venus star. Kenneth Johnson also states the hero twins of the Popol Vuh's epic journey into the underworld to conquer the Lords of Death can symbolize the invisible phase of Venus's star point cycle. To understand this association of Venus with resurrection and limitations of the human condition, one must understand how Mesoamerican cultures perceive Venus as a manifestation of their creator deity, Quetzalcoatl. For the Maya daykeepers, Venus transits had little to do with romance, nor twin flame toxic codependency between the divine feminine and divine masculine. Venusian energy was revered by the Mesoamerican civilizations not out of love, but out of fear. For the ancients, astrology was as much objective science as it was a seeming subjective religion. Science and spirituality were not separate. Archaeo-Astrology is a relatively new intellectual pursuit stemming out of the sister science of Archaeo-Astronomy. By integrating the archetypal wisdom of cosmology, aka mythology or the study of the universe in its totality, with the practical observations of astronomy, we can uncover the authentic version of astrology in alignment with its ancient application. I deduce that only by synthesizing information from modern derivatives of ancient wisdom systems can we possibly discern 1. How the prototype system functioned, 2. How the elevated ancient ancestors truly perceived the cosmos, 3. How matriarchal societies authentically use astrology, astronomy, and divination in their civilizations, and 4. How time as a force truly functions in the universe. Many New Age conspiritualists may say time isn't real, time is an illusion. This claim refers to the concept of mundane and linear time in the Gregorian administrative and fiscal calendar. The Gregorian calendar indeed is not based on any organic cycles as reflected in nature or the cosmos. So while this saying, time isn't real, time is an illusion, may be true in the context of discussing the soulless Gregorian calendar, it does not resonate with the ancients' perceptions of multidimensional cycles. For example, the Mesoamerican Tzolkin 260-day calendar with 13-day weeks is not measuring mundane time of the solar calendar, or the Hab, but rather sacred time as a reflection of cosmic law and order. Think of mundane time as a reflection of the day-to-day human activities, while sacred time is a reflection of the cosmos' greater cycles. If understanding the flow of sacred time, not mundane time, was of seeming utmost significance to ancient civilizations who developed astronomy and astrology, then maybe it's high time to rethink our conditioned notions about time. What is the true nature of the phenomenon we call time? Is the Gregorian calendar perhaps the biggest blunder in the history of timekeeping? How does patriarchal left-brain thinking limit our perceptions? Perhaps the one thing we can all agree upon in this wretched world of late-stage dystopian capitalism is that time keeps on slipping into the future, never ending. Measuring time itself was the prototype religion and science. The observation of time birthed astronomy, mathematics, and sacred geometry. Time is the greatest mystery of the human experience. Measuring time was perhaps the first curious human inquiry into what is the true nature of reality. Therefore, Archaeo-Astrology could be defined as an inquiry into the very mystery of time itself. Archetypal cosmology was of apparent utmost importance to all ancient civilizations who developed divination, timekeeping, and mathematics. As a practicing astrologer and reader, I advocate that all divination is rooted in ancient astrological traditions beyond modern Hellenistic Western astrology's Gregorian calendar and the tropical zodiac. End quote, via Archaeo-Astrology, Decolonize Your Horoscope.
We have reached the final stages of this Archaeo-Astrology book-umentary about Mesoamerican calendar cosmology. If you tuned in all the way to the end, I hope you can walk away with a deeper understanding and respect for the ancient Mesoamericans' perceptions of the cosmos. There's so much more material that I would have liked to cover in this book-umentary, but for the sake of being under 1 hour and simplicity, I decided not to cover the sacred long count calendar, which was the more famed, culturally appropriated calendar of the 2012 phenomenon. If you would like to learn more about the authentic precessional astrology behind the Mesoamerican long count calendar, you can check out the accompanying free book-umentary, Archaeo-Astrology, Decolonize Your Horoscope, on my YouTube channel. If you are curious to learn more about your individual day sign, number, and lore of the night, you can contact me via my website for a personal Mesoamerican horoscope reading. Muchísimas gracias por mirar este video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If it resonates with you, leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the Astrology for Divination channel. With all that being offered, the elevated ancient ancestors now compel me to say that no one is illegal on stolen land. Decolonization is not a metaphor. If we have any chance at surviving the climate crisis, we must return stewardship of the land to its original inhabitants, the indigenous people. According to the ancient Mayan prophetic cycle of the 13 Katuns, also known as the short count calendar, which is a derivation of the long count, in which there are 13 cycling Katuns, part of a 256-year cycle, that were deeply important for Mayan forecasts of political and earth events to come. Again, this was a prophetic cycle that was documented in the Book of Chilam Balam, the Perez Codex, and the current Katun that we, the collective, are currently in, that will last until the year 2032, is Katun number 2, Ahau. And in a nutshell, the ancient Mayans forecasted that for the first half of this Katun, food will be in good supply. And then for the second half of it, misfortune will occur. This Katun brings the end of the authoritative order. It is a time of uniting for a cause. So, free Palestine, free the Congo, free the Sudan, free Turtle Island, decolonize now.